All right, friends, we are going to make checker pieces for our chessboards that we make here in the shop. So I have a cylinder, or rather I have a rectangle that I'm going to turn down to a cylinder, then I'm going to sand it, then I will take it over and I will cut individual pieces. I usually cut 12 to 13 pieces. Well, you have to have 12, but I cut 13. And so that way I have an extra for when you lose it, or if you need to king a piece. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this down and then sand it, and then I'll cut it. All right, so I have a cylinder now. So now what I want to smooth this up just a little bit more. And what we have is we have a tool, they're called calipers, and we can check our diameter in here to make sure we're the same diameter as we're going along. If I have a piece, like a chess piece, that I want all my pieces the same, I could use that caliper to make sure I'm measuring the same place, the same diameter everywhere. I don't need to use the calipers on this. I'm visually seeing that, or I'm very close. I don't have any big humps or ridges in here. So now I'm going to take a more precise tool, a finer tool, and turn this down some more. Okay, one thing I forgot, friends, is when you go and you're using a finer tool, when you get it all roughed out, you can go ahead and turn up your speed and make it turn faster. With this lathe, you need to adjust the speed while it is on. This tool is more for like a profile. If I wanted to do my chess pieces on here, I would use something like this. This is also a nice tool to use to get everything concentric, get it all the same type of diameter without a bunch of ridges in here. when I'm doing this, folks, I'm using really light pressure. I'm not pushing in hardly at all. I'm just letting the very tip of my knife contact those ridges and take those and make them smooth. So now I'm ready to sand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tool rest off. I'm going to set it to the side, and I'm going to get a piece of sandpaper and wrap it on the back side. So I have an old belt sander belt, and this is like an 80 grit. So I'm going to sand it with this, just make it smooth, and then I'll get a higher grit and I'll sand that down and make it very smooth. You can see all this dust coming off it. That's why it's good to wear a dust mask. I'm not doing it right now because it'd be really hard to hear what I'm saying. So I am not going to do a bunch of sanding on this. It's sanded enough with this. Now I'll do a fine grit. I have an old disc. This was, it used to be a 120, but the grit's almost off of it. So it's more like a 220 now. So I'll do just a little bit of this, and then we'll cut our checker pieces. Okay, this is really smooth right now. It's really nice and smooth. It looks pretty. Now I'm going to take this off and I'm going to cut with a back saw, because if I cut with a chop saw, these little pieces tend to fling off and then you break a whole bunch of them and it doesn't produce a good cut. So I'll go ahead and I'll take a piece of sandpaper and I'll roll it around. And I'll flip it over. And then I'll go on the sides. I'll hold my piece at an angle and I'll kind of roll it around, and I'm also turning it in my hand. And I'm gonna take this edge, this sharp edge, and I'm just kind of knocking it down so it's a little bit smoother. I'm not really rounding over that edge. I'm just knocking down that sharp edge so it's smoother, so it's comfortable to grip and do all your jumping. Another way you can do that, you can hold your sandpaper and you can sand a little bit and turn it, sand it and turn it, sand it and turn it. All we're doing is just knocking down those sharp edges from where we cut it. All right, friends, so there's your checker piece. So at this point, I will lay out a paper towel. I'll put all my pieces down there, all my walnut, and then my light side, all my maple. Once I get those turned down and cut and sanded, and then I'll put a coat of polyurethane on the top, then I'll flip them after that's dried, and then I'll put a coat of polyurethane on the bottom so they're nice and shiny and they have that sheen and protectant like the checkerboard does. So there you go, friends. Now you can make your own checkers for your own checkerboard. Thanks so much for watching, folks. I really appreciate the views. I appreciate the comments. Let me know what you think. Is there any step that I might have forgot? Or is there something I should add? One thing you could do is you could get a wood burner and you could wood burn an image or a letter in there, so that way, instead of putting another piece on top for a king, you could just flip it over. Just a thought. Thanks for watching, friends.